For the first video, what we'll be talking about is having a budget and also how to create some long-term savings. Today we're going to talk about why a budget often fails. We'll talk about different ways that we can increase our chances for success. And it all leads to having goals and defining actions. One of the last things that we're going to cover is going to be talking about opportunity costs when it comes down to interest on paying with credit cards and mortgage, as well as how much interest you can make with a checking or savings account. So the reason why a budget often fails is because we look at so short of a time period. Often budgets that you see online are only going to cover 1 month at a time. The reason why it's very poor to have a 1 month budget is you're often not buying clothes every single month per year. You're definitely not buying a winter coat when it's the month of June, July, August, and you don't have to pay your insurance every single month if you have it on a 6-month plan. So the reason why we often look at a budget that fails is we look at so granular of a time. Therefore, the reason why more people have success is by taking out over a course of a full year. What you'll see is in an example that you'll see up here is a year-long budget. We can put in our income that we have out there on a monthly basis, and we can almost pull it to the full year if we're going to pay consistently. There's going to be opportunity to add for secondary jobs, for interest earned, when we're talking about our income section. When we talk about our expenses, we're going to have an area for fixed and variable. Our fixed expenses are going to be stuff that we're going to pay the same amount every single month. Whether that be your cell phone bill is primarily the same, an internet bill is primarily the same, your rent or your mortgage is essentially the same every single month. We can just forecast that as far as what we're going to have to spend every single month using that. The variable expenses are the ones that we can control on a monthly basis. We know that we have the ability to control how much we spend on food, how much we spend dining out, on entertainment, how much we're spending on shopping. Those are all going to vary on a monthly basis. Our goal over a course of a year is to determine where we see opportunities to save and how we can allocate those funds differently. When we talk about having goals and defining actions, it all starts into figuring out what we want to do in a 1 year period of time is a short-term goal. A 2 to 5 year period of time is going to be known as an intermediate goal, and then we're also going to be talking about long-term goals more than 5 years. Our goals will constantly be shifting over time, but we should always have a goal in mind of trying to save as much as we can, future retirement, eliminating debt, planning for a major event, whether it be college, whether it be marriage, whether it be a baby. All the course of our goals are going to constantly be changing, and our plan every single year is to make sure that we're focusing on our goals. Now when we talk about actions, our actions are what are going to dictate how successful our budget is going to be. Whether it be you spend too much money on going out to eat, you have to try to rein it back. If you spend too much money on coffee every single day, it's an opportunity to rein that back. Now, as we'll be talking about opportunity costs for credit cards, our biggest advantage is to determine what is our interest rate on credit cards. Right now we can use the national average, which is 17.4%. I'm also going to define what an average person has for a credit card balance. In the United States right now is around a little over $7,500. If we look at the interest earned per year, or the interest that we'd have to pay on an annual basis using those averages, it's a little over $1,100 per year in interest. But let's just say that we're doing a great job budgeting and we could allocate an extra $50 payment or $100 payment. What you'll see in these examples is how much money you will save in interest over the time and how quickly you'll be paid off in respective time. Now, I use an example of a person with an average balance across the whole United States. But those take into consideration people that are extremely elderly that have no credit card debt, and also takes into consideration the youth that have limited or no credit cards out there. But I'm going to talk about an average person right now. It has around a little over $15,500 if they're carrying a balance on their credit cards. As you'll see in this example over here is what their monthly payment is, and if they can go a little bit higher per month, how much more interest that they will save in that course of the year. Because every single year they're paying almost $2,700 worth of interest. And that's going to take into consideration how much money we have to get out of debt if we were talking about our goals, but more importantly, how much more money we can save in the future if we make this a priority of paying down debt. Now, once again, I talked about the impact of mortgage. Using a $150,000 example at 4.375%, your monthly payment is around $749 for principal and interest. That does not take into consideration our taxes and insurance, but just to make numbers easy, I'm just going to talk about our principal and interest. If we made that payment every single month over that 30-year period, we're going to pay around $119,000 in interest. After 10 years, our balance will be around $119,000. Our balance after 20 years will be $72,600. And then approximately around year 24, you'll still have a balance of around $49,600. Now let's just say that we are able to focus our budget on putting an extra $100 every single month on the principal balance. I'm going to show you an example of what that looks like in the course of our long-term savings. If we're able to put an extra $100 a month, we would only pay $91,000 worth of interest over time. But after 10 years, that balance is around $104,000. After 20 years, that balance is around $34,000. But more importantly, your loan is paid off by year 23 years and 8 months. We essentially save 76 months of payments, but more importantly, we save a little over $28,000 worth of interest over the course of time. That is a difference of just $100 extra per month. And we're able to accomplish that by budgeting. Lastly, I'm going to be talking about the impact of earning interest. Now, I will tell you here at Citizens Bank, we pay an interest-bearing checking account that pays 2.53% on an annual percentage yield. I'm going to give you a couple examples of us versus a national average of how much more you would have. If your average balance was $1,000, you'd earn approximately $25 in a year. If your balance was $5,000, you earn about $126 of interest in a year. If your average balance was $10,000, it's about $253 in a year. But if your balance was $15,000, you're earning almost $380 of interest in a year. When you compare that with the national average, which is a paltry 0.04%, that same $15,000 balance in a course of 1 year is $6. So now, if we start looking about how much money that is on an annual basis, it's a little over $370 more. But once again, we're going to forecast out the idea of budgeting and savings, is I'm always looking for the long term. In a 10-year difference, that is going to be over $3,300 in difference, but in a 20-year period, we've earned an extra $6,700 of interest. Once again, I'm just comparing this to the national average. Our goal out there in creating a budget is try to earn as much as we can and try to reduce the amount of interest that we pay over time. All this is being accomplished between great budgeting tactics and strong saving techniques. Now, as we continue our budgeting conversation, we're going to be talking about the cost of a luxury item. Now, this first item I'm going to bring to your attention is probably going to surprise you because it is actually a cup of coffee. Now, let's just say you're going to buy a cup of coffee at a Caribou or a Starbucks. On average, you're going to pay $4.25 plus tax for that cup of coffee. If you did that Monday through Friday, on average, you're spending $23 a week. If you take that to a month, it's on average about $100 a month. Now, if we take that to a year, it's about $1,200 a year. Once again, we're talking about coffee. If we have an opportunity to brew our own coffee at home, we're able to save pennies on the dollar versus what we'd be spending by buying a cup of coffee each day at one of those places. But the reason why I call it a luxury item is what we're going to happen over the next 5, 10, and 20 years for the same cup of coffee. With basic inflation, in a 5-year period, we'd spend over $6,300 on coffee. Take that into 10 years, it'd be over $13,000. And if you take it into 20 years, it's essentially $27,500 on coffee if you just had it Monday through Friday at one of those places. This is why it is a luxury item, and this is why it is important to budget. All right, we just finished our coffee example. Our next luxury item is going to surprise you. Once again, it is a can of pop. Now, if I was going to ask you, how much would you pay for a can of pop? Some people will say 25 cents on the low end, 50 cents on average. Nobody would ever pay more than $1 for a can of pop. If you went to a grocery store, would you ever pay $12 for a 12-pack? Absolutely not. So we know it's worth less than $1. But yet, when we go to a sit-down restaurant, on average, the price for that can of pop is really going to be about $2.95 plus tax. But wait a second, John, they give me unlimited refills. We got to take advantage of that deal. On average, a person just takes one refill plus their original. So once you add in tax and tip for that $2.95, for a family of 4, it's going to come out close to $15 as you think of your long term. Now, if you only went out on paydays in your future, that 15 times 26 is $390 a year. You're going to fast forward that into 5 years, and you're going to be paying close to $2,000, or in 10 years, over $4,000 for, once again, a luxury item, which is a can of pop. Once again, my advice out here is to practice great budgeting techniques, which is going to allow you to save money. The next most important aspect of budgeting is going to come down is to when to buy in a course of the year. The reason why that matters is how much money we have for our budget in a course of a year. If we're planning ahead, we know when to purchase. For example, the best time to buy a winter coat is actually in May or June. Conversely, the best time to buy summer clothes is at the end of the season, as we have experienced here. The reason why we care about it is with a 4-letter word that starts with S. Nope, not that 4-letter word. It's actually the word sale. The key word in the word sale is that we can actually spend less money in a course of a year than what we were planning to. So for example, you could get these trendy pair of jeans for $30, $40, $50 off of what they originally were going to cost if you bought them in season. The best time to buy a snowblower is actually in June. The best time to buy a lawnmower, oddly enough, is in November. If we know that we're going to have to make these purchases in a given year, our goal is to actually make them wisely and plan for them throughout the course of the year.
For our savings budgeting wrap-up, our takeaways we want to make sure is that each year we spend a little bit less than what we earn. It is our ultimate responsibility on how we can maximize our budget. We want to focus our long and short-term goals around our savings. Therefore, we can plan accordingly. With the biggest thing we want to take away is our opportunity costs in terms of spending today versus what we can get in our future. The example of cutting out some coffee or pop could allow us to get a nicer home or a better vehicle. If you're looking for an example of our budget, feel free to email jmaier@citizensmn.com. And lastly, when we're talking about that budget, we just want to make sure that we can control what we can control, which is the difference between fixed and variable expenses. The fixed expenses are going to be the same each month, which is going to be your rent or mortgage, your cell phone, your internet or cable provider, an auto loan, insurance, to name a few, versus the variable expenses, the ones that can change drastically each month, which would be food, shopping, entertainment, or dining out. So we can control what we can control, which is our variable expenses. Ultimately, our goal is to be in a better financial position each year moving forward, and that is accomplished by saving and budgeting. Thank you.